Hello and welcome to episode X of the Thinking LSAT podcast. I'm in Los Angeles. I'm Nathan Fox. With me in Vienna, Virginia is Ben Olson. And if you're hearing this, it means that the shit once again has hit the fan. Right, Ben?
Yeah, because this is not a live or a current episode. This is being recorded in May of 2018.
We're doing this in May of 2018. We're hoping we won't have to use it anytime soon. We like to have an extra episode in the can just in case Ben gets struck by lightning or, something horrible happens. So, if you're hearing this, one or both of us might be dead, but hopefully not. We'll hopefully be back with you shortly.
If one of us dies and then we just play the last episode, it's like, here you
go. Mom, Dad, I know we had some problems during my lifetime. I know we had some arguments, but I love you both. Okay. So, today we are going to have a little bit of fun with the June 2007 LSAT logic games. We've already discussed the entire test on previous episodes of the show. We have discussed everything on the entire test except for the third and fourth logic game. So today we're going to spend some time looking at each of these games, or hopefully, I don't know. It depends how long we how long we take to talk about the first one. But this is the June 2007 LSAT, which you can Google. It is Googleable. If you Google June 2007 LSAT, you will immediately find a PDF of the June 2007 test. This was the actual official LSAT from June of 2007. And you can use it for diagnostic purposes. You can also use it for study purposes. So we're looking at questions 11 through 17. Mm-hmm. And I guess the first thing we would do is read all of this setup. I call it the setup and the rules. Yeah?
Mm-hmm. That's what I call it.
You want to do that?
Sure.
All right.
A cruise line is scheduling 7-week-long voyages for the ship Freedom. So stupid. All these things are stupid.
That's awesome.
Each voyage will occur in exactly one of the first 7 weeks of the season, weeks 1 through 7. Each voyage will be to exactly one of 4 destinations. So I would just stop for a half second and just process this. So we got 7 weeks, and you're going to have a voyage that's going to occur in exactly one of these weeks. So it sounds like an ordering game. We're just going to order this stuff, and those voyages can go to one of 4 destinations. So already we know that we have these 4 variables, G, J, M, and T. And since we have 7 weeks and 4 variables, some of these variables almost certainly are going to appear more than once. I mean, unless something else comes up later as we read through these rules. But right now, this is what I'm thinking, I guess, as I read this.
Yeah, I would be almost certain that we're going to have doubles of G's, J's, M's, and or T's.
Yeah.
If we're going to have 7 things, but we only have 4 choices.
Yeah. Each destination will be scheduled for at least one of the weeks. Okay, so they've got to go to all 4 of these places.
But I mean, they mentioned all 4 of them, Ben. They don't need to say that, do they?
That's a very good point, actually. There's a lot of times, almost every time that they mention a set of variables, they go to all of the variables. But there are some games in which they don't. And since that's the exception to the rule, people begin thinking that they can just assume that all variables will be used, but that is not necessarily true if they don't, if they don't say it, then it's not true. It doesn't have to be true. And so watch out. Watch out for those games in which they don't say anything about whether or not the variables are all going to be used.
Yeah, if it doesn't say that they have to use each of these 4 destinations, they do not have to use each of these 4 destinations. Yep. But here it does. Here it says each destination will be scheduled for at least one of the weeks.
Yep. The following conditions apply to Freedom's schedule. Jamaica will not be its destination in week 4. Okay, so this is a negative rule, so I would put a little J below my 4th week and cross it out.
Except for first, we would read everything before we would start writing anything.
Really? Yeah, I guess so.
Would.
I
It's better, dude, because there's so many times where you end up linking stuff together later on, and just why you don't need to be writing. It's so frantic to be writing as you're reading the rules.
All right.
I really like the idea of reading everything first and then starting my diagram. It's like measure twice, cut once.
I hear you. I think that in some ways I'm okay. It's probably not entirely fair because I feel comfortable enough with the test that when I'm doing like an ordering game like this, I'm just starting to take notes on it. And I do skip rules. It goes so far as to the point where I skip rules if I feel like if they don't link in, and they might link in later. But that's complicated, and we'll just keep it simple here, and we'll read.
How much time are you really going to save by writing them as you're reading it through? You know, like that's sort of like, are you going to save 10 seconds maybe? And
yeah, I don't know how much time I'm going to save, but I mean, it's what I end up doing because I feel like I know what's going on here, and I just start doing the game.
Sure. If you have enough expertise to recognize that this is just a sequencing game and you know basically what kind of a setup you're going to use, I suppose that's fine. But for most people hearing this, and you know, they're not perfect at the games yet, and there are certainly games where they're not going to have a very comfortable, you know, where they shouldn't know what their approach is going to be until they've read everything. Mm-hmm. For example, what if you end up making worlds here? You know, if there's a rule later that's like, if this, then that, and you might end up making two scenarios anyway. Mm-hmm. And so I would rather start with those two scenarios than muddying up my board by writing down things in one scenario.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
So rule 1 was Jamaica will not be its destination week 4.
Because you know what, Ben? Because like, think about it this way: what if later the rules connect in such a way that you actually make the inference that Jamaica can only go in week 1 and week 2?
Yeah.
If that was the case, then your J not 4 is actually a mess. You know, that's not helping you in that case. So that's a hypothetical, but I really do think that, hey, it takes 15 seconds to read everything through before you start writing.
Yeah.
Safety first is what I'm about.
I'm okay with that. Trinidad will be its destination in week 7. Freedom will make exactly 2 voyages to M, and at least 1 voyage to G will occur in some week between those 2 voyages. Okay, so now we know there's exactly 2 M's. So we know M is going twice, and we know that it's going exactly twice, and that at least 1 G is between those 2. Mm-hmm. G will be its destination in the week preceding any voyage it makes to J, or to Jamaica. All right. So if you see Jamaica, you got to see G immediately before it. But if you see G, you don't necessarily have to see J.
Yeah, that's how people fuck that. Really, if you're going to fuck up this game, that's where you fuck it up.
Yeah.
Is people just write GJ.
Yep.
And they think that they're, you know, hey, that's quicker. I just write GJ. Mm-hmm. And then every time they see a G, they put a J. And that's wrong, because you can absolutely have G's without J's. Do you have people memorize a list of sufficient indicators?
I don't emphasize it in class, but I do. There are words that I know are sufficient indicators, and so again, I don't know how much I rely on them, but I do know them all.
Is there one here?
There is. It's any.
Okay, and the any is referring to Jamaica, and so any voyage to Jamaica has to have a G in front of it. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, there's 4 common ones that are easy to remember because of the A. So you have any and all, and then each and every.
Except for each starts with an E. But anyway.
Well, I know, sorry. It's AA. But so does every, right? But
I said every. Yeah.
It's AAEE. And for some reason, that's easy for people to remember. And it's all, any, each, and every. And they all indicate an if clause. So if a voyage goes to Jamaica, then in the preceding week, it's got to go to G. Okay, cool. last rule: no destination will be scheduled for consecutive weeks. Okay, so you're not going to have GG, JJ, MM, or TT.
Would you write XX and cross it out?
Yeah, that's what I would do because it applies to all of them.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, now Nathan, you want to go back and read them again?
No, but I mean, I would have 7 little dashes, 7 lines that I'm going to fill out. And yeah, I would now put a J slashed out underneath week 4.
Okay.
I would just put a T into the space for week 7.
Sure. Yeah.
People sometimes like to write that as a rule,
Oh,
like
my
a numbered list of rules.
Yeah.
And they're like T equals 7. No. You're making a picture. You've got your 7 spots there. Just fill up that 7th spot with a T and you're done with that rule.
Yeah, this is just a general principle in the games. The more you can make this visual rather than mathematical, the better. Hands down. Yeah.
Okay. That third rule, I would write M.G.M.
Yeah, I would do M-G-M, so we're just using dashes instead of dots, but same idea, exactly. Same.
Okay. And then I would put a 2. I would have written down somewhere GJMT.
Yes.
Probably up, like floating in space, up above my 7 spot, way above it, above it.
And
you spread out a little bit. But then I would write a 2 next to the M.
Put your 2 next to M to show that's exactly 2.
Exactly 2. Yeah, it's not going to be more. It's not at least 2. It's exactly 2. So I would have a 2 there.
Here's a question for you, because I have something in particular that I like to do, but I'm just curious, what if the rule was changed to say freedom will make at least 2 voyages to M? How would you symbolize that?
I would put greater than or equal to 2 next to the M. I would just put a little greater than or equal to 2. But I guess you probably have some better way.
No, I don't know if it's better, but this is what I like to do. So you have your GJMT, right?
Yeah.
I like to add just another M. So
that's a great way to do it.
I can see that, I got to take care of these 5 variables and then maybe more.
Yeah, that's probably better. I mean, and to go back to my thing of like, if I hadn't written down GJMT in the first place, my list of variables might very well be M.G.M.JT. Yeah, because then now it's like I'm making it even more visual, right? I can see now, hey, there's 5 things. I would probably put commas in there. M.G.M, comma, J, comma,
You're
T.
saying that you wouldn't list. I guess I have my list going on above the diagram, and then I have like the rules going on in the diagram.
Yeah, a lot of times I end up not even writing that list. I mean, I learned to write the list when I first started doing the logic games. That's sort of like, Power Score 101 kind of thing. Yeah. But I think sometimes I wouldn't even write it that way because, well, the list might be obviated by the rules later.
Yeah. Ooh, obviated. That's a good word. That's a word that people should be using. Not,
yes. Ouroboros?
Ouroboros, yeah, sorry, I totally forgot the word. But and that's from a previous episode, so no one's going to make sense out of that. But if you're a dedicated listener, you'll know what we're referring to.
Ouroboros is a snake that's eating itself.
Yeah.
But obviated means made obvious. It means so that you don't need it anymore.
Yep.
Obviated is a useful fucking word.
Yeah, it's very common in law school too.
Yeah, that's a really good one. So you're welcome. Okay, so we've got. Okay,
we're talking about the list here really quick. So I like to have a list because even though that's Power Score 101, I don't know. It's just I just write it and then sometimes I'll reference it when I'm trying to figure out who wasn't addressed or something. I'll just like quickly scan that list and be like, oh, we haven't talked about K at all or whatever. So I
see. Yeah.
But anyways, okay.
Yep.
So we got the third rule, then we got the fourth rule. We talked about that, I guess. I would write GJ right next to each other and make it obvious that they're right next to each other. And with G, of course, ahead of the J, because it's saying Guadalupe will be its destination in the week preceding any voyage that it makes to J, Jamaica. And then I would have an arrow that goes from J up and then down to G. So when I see that, I see something that basically says, look, if you're going to have J, then you got to have G immediately.
You're making it almost Ouroboros.
Wow, that's really odd that we're talking about that. Yeah, it's almost an Ouroboros. It's a half an Ouroboros.
I would write J and then an arrow GJ.
Got it. Mm-hmm.
So that would mean to me, if J, then GJ. Mm-hmm. Anytime I write an arrow, it's always going to mean if then. And so I would probably just straight up make that conditional. If J, then GJ.
So wait, see, I'm still using an arrow. So it's still like the whole conditional thing. But yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah. No, yours totally makes sense. Mm-hmm. I would then also probably write the contrapositive. I would write a GJ slash out, and then an arrow, and then a no J at all, slash out J.
So that's something I would not do because I try to minimize the amount of information that I have in my diagram. Not trying to pick a fight with you or anything, but
yeah. I think what we're both saying is don't fuck up that rule.
Yeah.
I mean, you whatever it takes to recognize that this rule is conditioned on the presence of J. Mm-hmm. That if you have J, you have to have GJ.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I'm going to write an XX and cross that out.
Yep.
Because you can't have the same destination for consecutive weeks.
Cool.
And then I just go right into the questions, right?
Yeah, exactly. Let's just jump right in. And so we don't have much time. We have 8 minutes and 45 seconds.
Yeah. So much time has already elapsed by reading the rules. I need to get into these questions. Yeah. No, we're looking to make some inferences, Ben. How do you make an inference?
Okay.
What is that?
Well, an inference is just something that must be true given what was said. Which, by the way, is just a fundamental thing on the LSAT. It's like they're obsessed with giving you information and trying to decide, can you figure out what must be true given what was said? That doesn't matter whether it's games, LR, or reading comp.
Absolutely. Can you put the pieces of the puzzle together? They're gonna give you the puzzle pieces, and they're begging for you to put that shit together.
Yeah.
An inference, there's nothing magical, mystical about it. An inference is just some shit that has to be true based on the other shit that they already told you.
Yeah.
And you've got to make... Is it fair to say that you always have to make an inference? That's a safe assumption, right?
Oh, in the games you're talking about?
Yeah. You should make an inference. If you don't make an inference, you have definitely fucked up. Frequently, you need to make more than one inference. But I think you could go ahead and say, if you don't make an inference, you really have no business doing the questions.
Yeah, I mean, the inference, some like really simple ordering games are so loose that the only inference is linking some rules together, but that's still an inference.
That's an inference, yeah. Linking rules together is absolutely an inference.
Yeah. Okay.
So what are we going to infer here?
Well, so first things I tend to do, just check off my little like pilot list, I guess here, or flight checklist, is I will say, okay, are there any variables that weren't discussed? And in this game, we had GJMT, and all 4 of them were discussed. So there are no floaters in this game. But if there ever are floaters, I like to write them near my diagram and then circle them so that I have all the variables right in front of me. I have the rules written out right below the diagram or in the diagram if I can get them in the diagram. And then I have the extra variables right there as well so that everything is right in my face. Because a lot of times when people get stuck in the games, it's just because they're forgetting about Q or whatever. And you're like, oh, what about Q? And like, oh, yeah, Q. Q's got to go here. It's like, yeah, well, there you go. So I think just having all the variables staring me in the face is very helpful.
Okay.
So then the next thing is to make inferences, and that requires magic. So we're just going to have to hope that it comes to us, and if it doesn't, then go into the questions.
Yeah. I just scream at my class nonstop about looking for somebody who was mentioned in more than one rule.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Here, I'm not sure if it actually works, but, J was mentioned twice. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And G was mentioned twice as well.
Yeah.
Maybe start with J, because J was mentioned in the very first rule. Mm-hmm. And then, let's see. J can't be in 4. The other rule is conditioned on the presence of J. If you have J, you have to have GJ.
That does tell you something. Yeah.
It does tell me something. It actually has nothing to do with the first J rule. Mm-hmm. But I'm just thinking,
Yeah.
You know, J has to have, anytime there's a J, you have to have a G in front of it. Mm-hmm. So then it seems like it would be difficult if J went first.
Yeah. Very, very difficult.
There is no destination 0. So J cannot go in week 1.
Yeah. So now you know J can't go in 1 or 4, which means, remember there are 7 slots, so we've gotten rid of 2 of them, so there are 5 left.
But T has to go in week 7.
And T has to go in week 7, so now there are 4 left. There are only 4 places that J can go, and J, by the way, does have to go.
Ooh. Tempting.
Yeah.
Awful tempting.
You're thinking about worlds?
Well, I'm always thinking about worlds. I mean, I'm all about it.
People often ask, how do you decide whether to do worlds? And I always say, well, it depends on how many I'd have to create and how full they seem like they'd get. And the first question, how many would I have to create? In this case, we'd only have to create 4. And I generally say, if I have to create between 2 and 4 worlds, I'm going to keep thinking about it. If I have to create 5, this doesn't mean it's like game over, but it's starting to get to the point where it may be so many that it's not worth the time. But anywhere from 2 to 4 worlds seems like, I'm going to keep thinking about it. That's my general rule of thumb.
Yeah, here I would be very tempted because the rule, there's that conditional rule, right? And conditional rules tend to be a pain in the ass.
Yep.
And J has to be used at least once. Mm-hmm. I'm not, can J be used twice? I ask myself. And my answer is
some like weird novelist.
Yeah, it's like, well, I don't know. I actually don't know right now.
Yeah.
But my suspicion would be that maybe J can't go twice. Because if you had 2 Gs, you'd have to have, or 2 Js, you'd have to have also 2 Gs. But then we also have to have 2 Ms. And so I don't know this for sure, but I have a suspicion that if I start using, if I do make the 4 worlds based on J, I have a suspicion that I will end up finding out that I can't use 2 Js.
Yeah. It seems like right now, 2 Js, 2 Gs,
2 Ms and 1 T. That's 7.
That works.
It just
theory.
would be tight. That's what I'm worried about.
Yep. Okay.
I'm writing down the worlds. I just made the worlds.
Dude, here's a question for you.
They're looking good.
Did you write out the 7 slots twice or 4 times?
I wrote it 4 times, but I definitely could have written it twice.
Yeah. So you don't have to, but I think we're thinking the same thing as, and this, I wrote it twice. I'm using the top of one set of slots for one world and the bottom immediately below those same 7 slots for the second world.
Yeah, I kind of hate myself for writing it 4 times.
Don't feel bad, Nathan.
I'm getting a little bit better every day. I'm working on it. It's part of my self-improvement process. No, I do frequently, like if I was going to make 2 worlds and if I was really on my shit, I very frequently would just write the 7 slots once and then make a world above the line and a world below the line. Yeah.
Okay. So when you create those 7 worlds, I'm assuming that you're going to put J in 2, 3, 5, and 6.
Yep.
And you're going to do that before you do anything else.
Yeah. Before I write those fucking G's in.
Yes. And the T's and all that other garbage.
I want to be very clear about where I'm drawing the line. You know, I am making worlds. I'm doing this with intention. I'm making worlds based on J because I know that J can only go in 4 spots. And so I'm going to put J into all 4 of those spots before I start making inferences in any of those worlds.
Yeah, I agree. People do that all the time. They're like, well, world 1 is going to be J in 2. So I put J in 2 and then I'm going to start working on this world. And it's like, you forget what the other worlds need to start with.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So now you got your J's and your G's. Is that what I'm guessing?
I've got my J's and my G's. I do.
Okay. Do you have your T now?
I have my T's in there in the 7th spot.
Yep.
Noticing that I only have 4 available spots. You know, in each of those worlds, I only have 4 available spots, and 2 of those are going to have to be M's.
Yeah.
And the M's do have to surround one of the G's. So in the world, like in the first world, it's got GJ in the first 2 spots.
Yep.
And T in the 7th spot. And so I do have to figure out, I mean, there's going to be an M and a G and an M are going to go in those spots. But now I do think I actually could use another J there, couldn't I? Couldn't I have M, G, J, M?
Sure, why not? Yeah. So, by the way, speaking of this, so we have 4 slots, right? Empty. So I'm looking at world 1. You're looking at world 1? Yeah. So we have G in 1, we have J in 2, and then we have T in 7. So then we have these 4 empty slots between 3 and 6. And you're absolutely right. We have to have that MGM thing appear somewhere. And so in this particular world, it's got to be in those 4 slots. I feel like a lot of students look at those 4 slots and they say, well, I don't know where the MGM goes because it could go in the first 3, it could go in the last 3, it could be like spread out between the 4 somehow. So then they don't do anything. But what I like to do is I like to say, okay, I got 4 slots empty. I know that these 3 variables, MGM, in that order, although not necessarily consecutively, like not necessarily next to each other, will be going in those 4 slots. And so then what I do is I write M dash G dash M, or in your case, M dot 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 G dot 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 M, floating above those 4 slots so that I can see that 3 of them are taken by this thing that's floating above and could fall down anywhere depending on what else.
That's interesting. Yeah, I like to actually put it in the spots. What I would do is put brackets, like parentheses. So I have right now parentheses surrounding those 4 spots.
Okay.
And then in the 4 spots, actually taking up 3 of the 4 spots, I have M dot 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 G dot 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 M, comma, blank.
Okay.
And so now I like, I mean, either way, your floating thing and you're like, okay, it's going to fall in there somewhere. Mine is it's actually already in the 3 out of the 4 spots, and there's 1 floating spot in there that's going to bounce around.
I think what's important here though is that, well, you're not committing by putting that bracket around it. You're saying to yourself, these variables are not committed to these certain slots, right?
No, but 3 of these slots are committed to M, G, and M.
Exactly, which is really, really important because, whenever you're adding things to your diagram, you want to add something that must be true, not things that could be true. But sometimes when we do this, I think people are confused. They're like, well, aren't you writing what could be true? No. We're writing what must be true. We're saying MGM has to come in these 4 slots. Yep. We just don't know exactly where. So we're going right up to the line in terms of what we can infer and adding that to the diagram, but we're not going any further. It seems like people tend to fall into 2 categories or 2 groups that's wrong, and that is, 1, they don't make any inferences. They say, well, I don't know where MGM goes in these 4 slots. I know it goes in there, but I don't know where they go, so I don't write anything. Now you haven't made an inference that would be very valuable. Or they say, well, I don't know where they go, but I want to put it in my diagram because I know MGM has to go in these 4, and then they actually commit them to certain slots, which certainly could be true, but doesn't have to be true. And now you've gone too far.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I'm very comfortable with it. And I've found that students get comfortable with it when they see me do it a couple times. So I've got my brackets. I've got so in that first world, the 3rd, 4th, and 5th spots are filled now.
Yeah. Well, there's a key difference here, though, and that is you put those brackets, right? It's not like you're putting MGM into slots 3, 4, and 5, which would be.
And I also have dots.
Yeah.
I've got M dot 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 and G dot dot dot. And then I also have a comma before that blank spot. So
the comma indicates no indication of order.
It just means, and there's one other dude in here somewhere. It's like also featuring mystery blank spot.
Yeah.
Empty spot.
Now, we could go a little bit further. Who could that blank spot be?
Well, it can be T pretty easily.
Could be T.
It can be J if it's exactly MGJM.
Yep, it could be J.
And it could also be G if it was MGMG or MGGM or GMGM.
Not MGGM, right?
Oh, sorry. Oh, right, because it's 2 G's in a row. Thank you. So I guess it would have to only be GM, GM, or MGMG.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So sometimes if that mysteries, because sometimes people will leave that mystery spot alone, right? Too, they're like, okay, well, and then something else. But sometimes when you start thinking about what that mystery spot is, or slot, or whatever, you're like, oh, wait, it can only be this one thing, or it can only be two things, and then I'll usually do J/T or whatever, if it's only two things.
But here
it's
it's
three
three
things.
so
Yeah, so I'm going to leave it. But I think just playing that stuff out in your head is what people don't do.
Yeah.
That's the work up front.
I'm worried about the second world.
Yeah, the second world.
Blank GJ, blank, blank, blank T. And I would really love to put an M into that first spot.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have to be an M because it could be T if the 4th, 5th, 6th spots were MGM.
One thing here I'm looking at though, and no matter what, we have to have an M in those last three. So I would just put an M floating above those three.
Yeah, okay. I mean, I'll put brackets around those 3 spots, and I'm going to put in, actually in the last of those 3 spots, I might put comma M. So it's like there's 2 other things, and then for sure there's at least one M. I know for sure it could be MGM in those 3 spots.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah.
If it were, then T would have to be first. But otherwise, the first spot's an M. And if you do that, then you get all kinds of flexibility.
Yeah, you could.
I'd probably leave that.
Great. Split this into 2 mini worlds.
Sure. You could. But, at this point, I'm almost like, hey, what am I going to do? Am I going to really write out all the possibilities here? I don't want to write out all the possibilities. I want templates that will encompass all possibilities.
Well, and that's the other thing is that you decide on whether or not to create worlds or to split worlds into subworlds based on how full they are, and thus how much you can do the rest of the work in your head.
Yeah.
And if you can do the rest of the work in your head, and we're doing it right now, then it's like, yeah, this is going to be this is all I need.
Yeah.
And therefore this will get me through the game very fast. It's like you're giving yourself a crutch, and then you use that crutch to help your head, and you can go extraordinarily fast.
I'd probably write an M/T in the first spot.
Okay.
Because that
it's not going to be J, and it's not going to be G.
Yeah. So that's an M or a T. And then I'd probably just leave that and move on to the next world.
By the way, if you're driving, make sure to put your pencil down every couple minutes so you can look at the road.
Okay, so maybe we should go a little bit faster here, moving on. Wait. In the third world, I got excited for a second because I thought the 6th spot had to be M, but it could be G.
Yeah, because you have J and T around the 6th slot, so it can't be either of those. So it's either M or G, but you could write that in.
I'll write a G/M, and then in those first 3 spots...
I'm going to write an M/G just to be different.
Oh, good. And contrary, in the first 3 spots, I'm going to write an M, comma, blank, blank, with brackets around those first 3 spots.
You have an M floating up there, okay.
At this point, I would be feeling like a bit disappointed that the worlds didn't... I wanted them to come together more than they have here.
Yeah.
I don't think that this is the greatest game to do worlds on. I'm for the listeners, I am glad that we talked about it, but this is
Who knows though? When you go through these,
that's true.
Sometimes you're going through questions and you're just like, oh, well, it's not either of those worlds. And then that's enough for you to then see, you're like, oh,
that's true.
Creating even when you create the mini diagrams, I don't know what you call them. I call them mini diagrams for the if questions. It can speed those along because you're like, well, it's not here.
Or we might not even need to do them, right?
Yeah, exactly.
If J is 6th, and then I'm going to go, oh, well, that puts me in my 4th world here, and I see in my 4th world, I've already done some things.
Yeah.
So, okay, what did you do in your 4th world, Ben?
So I got MGM, M-G-M floating just above those 4 slots.
Yep. And, I've got brackets, and I've got M.G.M, comma, blank in those first 4 spots. And I'm, again, that could be MGJM.
Yeah.
T could be in there in any of the 4 spots. Could be an extra G in the first spot.
Yeah. And we could have another J if it's immediately before the G. MGJM.
The only way to MGJM is the only way to put a J in there.
Yeah.
But yeah. So
did I say? I'm sorry. I said immediately before the G. I meant immediately after the G. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought you were referring to the fifth spot G. But yeah, okay. Yeah. All right. And actually, now that I've done it all, how long did this take me in real life?
Oh, in real life, it'd be fast.
45 seconds.
Yeah.
60 seconds. I didn't.
In podcast life, it takes a good 20 minutes, but.
Yeah, right. Because if we're trying to talk about it and explain it and make stupid jokes, then it takes forever. But in practice, it wouldn't take that long. And I will be surprised if this doesn't help. It's like maybe it's not going to be a home run, but I'll be kind of surprised if it doesn't help.
I think it will.
All right. Should we tackle the questions?
Yeah, we should.
Okay.
So question 1 is just a process of elimination. So just grab a rule and eliminate.
Yeah, really important here that you do this question efficiently. Students all the time, no matter how many times I say it, students will still just look at A and then start comparing all of the rules to A.
Yeah, if you do that for your test, you shouldn't go to law school.
Especially not after I've told you 100 times not to do it that way.
Yeah.
It's much more efficient. J can't be fourth. That gets rid of D. Boom. That's it.
Yep.
That gets rid of that rule, and it gets rid of D.
Yep. T has to be last.
Gets rid of E. We're down to A, B, and C. And on my page, all I would have is a little check mark on D and a little check mark on E.
Yeah.
A little slash across the D and a slash across the E. Yeah. Students frequently they like to cross out the whole goddamn answer choice.
What is that? Like, it takes so much. That takes time.
Aggro, dude. like relax.
Plus, if you're wrong, then you have to like look under your bold pencil cross out.
They're over there fucking sharpening their pencil because they've used so much lead on crossing shit out.
Dude, maybe that's why people need 20 pencils at the test. They're like those crosser outers.
Yeah.
All right. So let's see here. Another easy rule is we got the MGM going on.
Yeah, make sure we got an MGM. So A's okay. B does not have an MGM.
No,
so B's out. Little check mark on the B. C's got an MGM. That's good.
Yep.
All right.
So we're left with A and C, and I'm sure they're going to use that J-G rule.
Yeah.
So if you have a J, you have to have a G. And so just look for J's and make sure they have a G before them.
Yeah. And that gets rid of C.
C's got a J with no G before it. So it's A.
Right. But, well, the rule, no destination will be scheduled for consecutive weeks. We haven't tested that yet. And I would want to look at A. It takes 1 second, and you look at A, and there's nothing consecutively.
Quick second.
Yeah. And that's important because what if I had made a mistake earlier? If I look at A right now and I see that it's got the same thing twice in a row, then that means I have fucked up. I have, at the very least, I was about to miss the question. But potentially way worse than that, I might have misunderstood one of the rules.
Yeah.
So I try to teach students, especially novices, to not be so quick to just pick an answer for this list question. If you haven't tested all the rules, I want you to test the remaining rule or two against the answer that you're about to pick, because this is the canary in the coal mine. And, I want to make sure that we can't ever be missing this question. This is also sort of a bellwether as far as, are you generally getting it on the games? Or actually, said another way, are you generally not getting it on the games? If you find yourself missing this list question ever, you got something going on. Like you got problems. You just can't miss that list question.
Yeah.
Odds are, if you miss that list question, you're going to miss 5 other questions. Maybe not 5, but you're going to miss a bunch of them, or you're going to struggle brutally, because it means that you either forgot about a rule or you misinterpreted a rule. You probably just you're just not understanding it properly.
Yeah, and you're going to pay for law school.
And you're going to pay for law school, in which case, oh my God. Don't. Please, God, do not do that. Okay. So number 11 is A.
Yeah. Cool.
And we're going to skip number 12.
Yeah. Wait,
come
why
back
would you
to
do
it.
that?
Because you convinced me to, this is actually in the back catalog of the show, Ben. I used to argue with you about this. I used to say, well, come on, it's so overcomplicated. Why would you do the questions out of order? And you told me, well, it doesn't always help, but when it helps, it can help a lot. And that's a very reasonable position. And I immediately changed my mind after, 6 years of doing it one way. I just immediately was like, oh shit, well, that's a better way to do it. And I started doing it that way. And it is totally better. It's not always a home run, but it's much better to do the if questions, before doing what do you call the other questions? I just call them the other questions.
Yeah, I call them the other questions, or which questions, or global questions, or universal questions. I don't really care. Just whatever's left.
Whatever's left, yeah. Another way of explaining it to students, because sometimes that's not fully satisfying to a student. And so one thing I say as a sort of a shortcut, and maybe this might not be 100% true, but it's true enough that I feel comfortable saying it. I frequently say, well, it's because the if questions are easier. I think they are in a way. They're easier because they give you a clue and you get the ball rolling.
Yeah.
Right? So for number 13, yeah.
I should say something else, because I can't remember if it's Power Score or Princeton Review or Kaplan or something. Some other company actively encourages people to do the non-if questions first.
What?
The global. Yeah. And this is my, and this is their reasoning, and this is my rebuttal. So they say, well, you should do these questions, especially ones that say like, what must be true first? Just blank, what must be true? Not if this is true.
Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah. And their rationale is that, well, you need to have these inferences in your diagram so you can do the other questions faster. And I always say this.
Wow.
I say, look, dude, if the question says, and this is all that the question says, which one of the following must be true? And you don't know the answer right away. Either you're going to know the answer right away because you made that inference up front, right? Like you're like, oh, I see this, and you make the inference, and then you know the answer, and so it's fine that you're doing it right now. Or you don't know what must be true. You weren't able to make that inference, and you weren't able to make it precisely because it was difficult. And so now you're forcing yourself to test all these answer choices to see whether it must be true. And great, once you realize that has to be true, that can help you with the other questions. But the other questions are so much easier to answer, even if you don't have that inference, and then use that information to get rid of the wrong answers in a must be true question. Like, oh, well, that doesn't have to be true because I've seen that before. So
that advice is just ridiculous. That's the worst advice I've ever heard almost on the games.
Yeah.
Well, the correct answer could be, okay, so just hypothetically, right?
Yeah.
Which one of the following must be true? The correct answer could be there is an M or a G somewhere in the first two destinations.
Yeah.
That could be the correct answer.
Yeah.
Because I'm looking at my worlds now, and I see it's not going to be possible to not put an M or a G. Actually, wait, hold on. Maybe in the third world you could get away with.
Yeah.
What? No, but how? No, you can't though.
But you couldn't put a J up.
You can't. No, because it can't be J without G. So you have to have an M or a G in the first two spots, right? Mm-hmm. Or but the correct answer could also be like you could come up with literally infinite just things that turn out that they have to be true, right? Like the first three spots must contain either two M's or, like whatever. I don't know what it is, but you could all day just sit here and come up with correct answer after correct answer after correct answer for a must be true question. And it's like conclusory and wishful thinking for them to be like, oh, well, this is an inference that you need to have this. You need to know this. Yeah. Fuck off. What? how are you supposed to figure out that the if questions give you a clue And if you're not quite so comfortable working in the game, the if questions give you an opportunity to gain some experience working within the system.
Yeah.
So for number 13,
Yeah.
if I hadn't made worlds at all, let's just pretend I hadn't made worlds at all. I'm going to put a T in the 7th spot. And then it says T in the 5th spot. Okay. Well, now, and here's where students, most students just start looking at A and B and C,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is clearly wrong. They gave me a clue. I need to follow the implications of that clue. What spot are you looking at if you've got 5 and 7 are taken up by T? Where are you going to start?
I'm going to start looking at 6.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Of course, because it can't be T.
Can't be T.
And it can't be J.
Can't be J because G has to come right before it.
Right. So that spot's going to be M or G.
M or G. And actually, so this is where I think the worlds can come into play because we know it's not the 3rd and 4th world, right?
Right. The 3rd and 4th world has a J and a G in the 5th spot. So
now we're looking at 1 or 2. And I honestly would probably just
do it both ways.
either do it both ways or just in my head look at those 2 worlds. Because like these worlds have enough in them that I feel like I can just move stuff around and answer the question.
I mean, you could also just pencil it out. It's like, how long does it really take to pencil it out?
Sure.
For most students, when in doubt, pencil it out. See what I did? But, like in the first world, it would be exactly GJ, M, G, T, M, T. Okay, so I wrote that out. In the second world, G, J in the 2nd and 3rd spots.
Yep.
And that means M has to go first now because I have to use 2 M's and they have to surround a G, and there's just no other way to do that. So M has to go first there. Then at that point, I probably would just leave it.
Yeah.
Right? Because M could go 4th or 6th. And if I put it 4th, then G could be 6th. And if I put it 6th, then I guess it's only G that could be 4th, huh? So maybe I would write a G and an M and then put a handle between the 2 of them.
Okay. Yeah.
Connecting them. Can you see that? You see what I'm doing?
I have an arc goes back and forth.
That's what I did. Yeah, an arc. Yeah.
Cool.
Call that a handle sometimes. But okay. And then with those 2 scenarios, maybe you did that in your head or maybe you just penciled them out.
Sure.
And now we can look at these, okay, I didn't even read the question. Which one of the following could be true?
Yeah, I almost never read the question.
It's just, you give me a clue and I'm like, okay, I'll be with you in just a minute. Right?
Processing.
Yeah, I'm the boss. I'm the boss of the test. If you told me that T is going to go 5th, then okay, fine, shut up. I'll be right back with you. I realize that there's only these 3 ways to do it. And then which one of the following now could be true? A says, can T be first? No, it's either G or M. B says, can M be second? No, it's either J or G.
Yeah, and this is where the worlds. I'm just.
If you hadn't penciled it out.
Yeah, if you hadn't penciled it out, like I think that this is the case for the worlds. If you're comfortable with doing this in your head somewhat, because you have the worlds now, you're like, well, no, neither of those worked in either of the 2 worlds that we're in, because we can only be in world 1 or 2.
Yeah. Although T can be first in world 2. It just wouldn't have worked if you put T 5th.
But we had made that inference that M had to be first, right? Because of that MGM thing. But anyways.
Once T is first, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so, or once T is 5th, I mean. Okay, C, could G be 3rd? No, it's either M or J. Yeah, the worlds get rid of that for sure.
Yeah.
Could M be 4th? Yeah. In world 2.
Yep. MGJM.
Pretty sure that's the answer. Could J go 6th? No, it's either going to be G or M.
Yeah. All right.
And students always ask, like, would you really look at E? Well, yeah, I would. It takes 1 second.
Yeah. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Cool.
Number 14. What are you going to do?
14. All right. If freedom makes a voyage to G in week 1 and a voyage to J in week 5. So G in 1 and J in 5.
And yeah, that hits our world. We already made a world where J is 5th. So I would probably make a quick new version of that world.
Yeah. So we have J in 5, and I'm just copying the stuff from that world. So we have T in the last spot. Now, in that world, we had G in 4, J in 5, M or G in 6, and T in 7. I'm not copying M or G right now. No.
Because it can't be G anymore.
I'm so glad we're on the same page here. They're saying J is in week 5, and wait, hold on. Sorry, G is in week 1. And we got to get that MGM thing going on here. And so, but I think students make this mistake all the time. They're like, oh, let me copy everything over, and then they're erasing. And it's like, copy over the concrete inferences, right?
Yep.
T is last, J is 5th, G is 4th, and then the concrete inference too, that G is 1st that they just gave us.
Yep.
And then we come in here and we're like, okay, well, that could be M or G, but now we know that 6 has to be M. Otherwise, there's no other way to get MGM.
Students will push back. Students will be like, but it could be G or M, but it could be G or M. And I would always say, well,
no,
it could have been G or M.
Yeah.
But the second I put G first here, I still have to have MGM somewhere. Mm-hmm. And yeah, that means that 6th spot now is going to be M for sure.
So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to write M into slot 2, and I'm going to put an arc above it going to slot 3. That's how I symbolize that.
I like that. So that's a blank. And then that could be T. Could be J if it's G.
Yeah. If
J, M.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So maybe I'll write a T/J there.
Yeah. I think I might be on the fence because I'd be a little worried about like future
thinking that
back.
It could be T in the or J in the 3rd spot, which won't work. Yeah. Okay.
But
anyway,
it's a cloudy area. But yeah, for sure, M is going back and forth between 1 and 3, or sorry, 2 and 3.
Good.
So A. Well, this is a must be true question. Which one?
Right.
Now we will read the question. Which one of the following must be true? A. Freedom makes a voyage to J in week 2.
Could be, but does not have to be.
Nope. Okay. T in week 2. I guess only could be, doesn't have to be. M in week 3. Again, could be, it doesn't have to be. G in week 6. No, it can't be. M in week 6. Yes. That's the inference that we made. Dunzo.
14E. 15 says, if freedom makes a voyage to G in week 1 and T in week 2, that puts us only in the 3rd world.
Yeah, that gets rid of worlds 1 and 2, and we don't have enough room for that in world 4. Yeah.
Would you even bother writing? I might just like sort of put my finger on the 3rd world here.
Yeah. And then in my head, I got G and T in weeks 1 and 2. Which is going to force.
But I could also, just as quickly, I could also just write G, T, M, G, J. I guess that next spot could still be G or M, huh?
Oh, wait, I don't think so.
Oh, no, because I haven't done MGM yet. Yeah, okay, so that's an M for sure. So again, M is in the 6th spot.
Yeah, it just depends on how easy it is for you to keep variables in your head, and that's something that improves over time, but it's also totally like this is 5 seconds. So we have GT, and then we got the MGM. So what do you got?
I got GT, MG, J, MT.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so I got all messed up. And I did 8 slots. Because I wasn't. This is another thing. I count my slots in my head, and since we're talking, I didn't do that. Now I'm an idiot.
Yeah, when in doubt, you want to be safety first, and it takes 2 seconds to just go ahead and pencil it out. And it puts us in the 3rd world. If I put GT in the first 2 spots, then M gets forced into the 3rd spot. It's GJ in the 4th and 5th spots. Now this 6th spot has to be M. And the last spot's T.
Yep.
Okay. Which one of the following must be true? M in 3, yes, that's the answer. Boom.
Boom. Done. Here, I wouldn't check the rest. Would you check the rest?
No. And
not
well,
worth the time.
as I get deeper into the game,
Yeah, your confidence builds.
yeah. Also, it's more likely on a must be true or a must be false that I will just say, okay, that's the answer. Boom.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure. I mean, if that's not the answer, then I'm like, I've already fucked up the game in other ways. And I can't allow that to be the case.
Yeah.
Number 16.
If freedom makes a voyage to M in week 3, okay, so that gets rid of World 2, but we have a lot of other options here. Okay, and which one of the following could be an accurate list of the freedom's destinations in week 4 and 5? Okay, I think what I'm going to do, since I put my worlds on top of each other, I'm assuming you did that as well.
Yeah, that's really important, actually. When you're going to make worlds here with 7 spots like this, you want to make sure that those worlds are stacked up so that you can just scan down your list. And you want the third spot to be in the same column.
Oh, yeah.
Students make worlds where they've got a world over here on the left and then a world over here on the right, and they got a world, floating. It's like, no, hold on. Let's keep it a little more organized.
Yeah. So, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna imagine M in the third slot for worlds 1, 3, and 4. And then I'm just going to go down this list. It says, could be an accurate list of the destinations in week 4 and 5. I think I'll just do this in my head. Are you cool with this?
Sure. Give it a shot.
Okay.
I mean, in the third world, the answer would just be GJ.
GJ, yeah. So you could look for that, and we don't see that.
No. Yeah. And in the, right. So in the fourth world.
Yeah, it would be G in the fifth.
G's in 5. So that's B.
But we can't do that because you have MGM before.
Can't have a J. Right. Okay. So that's out too. So now we're only in the first world, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Excellent. So we have M in slot 3, and then we have 3 remaining slots. And of those 3 slots, you have to have GM somewhere. Yep. So that means G is going to be a part of slots 4 or 5. So the answer
has to be A or B.
Well, it has to be. We already got rid of B because I don't remember how we got rid of it, but we got rid of it.
Yeah, I don't think we got rid of it necessarily. We got rid of it in World 4. It wouldn't have worked, but
yeah.
Anyway, looking at it's a could be true, and looking at A, it's going to work.
It's going to work. You just have M, G, T, M.
Yeah, that works. That's the answer.
Yeah.
Okay,
cool.
That's all the if questions. Now you're going back to number 12? Number
12. Yeah, the non-if questions, whatever's left.
Okay.
Which one of the following cannot be true about freedom's schedule of voyages? I should let you take this one. Sorry, I just took the last one.
No, it doesn't matter. I mean, the answer is A here because T's already in week 7, and you can't put the same thing twice in a row. So freedom can't go to Trinidad in week 6. That's a really easy must be false question.
So this is a really easy question, Nathan. Maybe we should have just done it right after question.
Right, exactly. Yeah, that's people always say that bullshit. Hey, this time it turned out to be easy, but on average, the if questions are going to be easier / get the ball rolling / they're going to make these which questions easier. So here it doesn't, but
the thing is you won't know that it's easy until you're into it. So it's just like save time. Do question 11 and then be like, okay, where's if? Don't even read the other stuff.
Right.
All right, 17. Which one of mine must be true about this freedom schedule of voyages? And this is where I love all my previous diagrams, because if any of my previous diagrams do not do this, then I know the answer doesn't have to be true. If freedom makes a voyage to G in either week 1 or else week 2, that's true in worlds 1 and 2. Does that have to be true in world 3?
It doesn't have to be true in 4 because it could be TMGM.
TMGM.
So that's out.
That's out. B. Freedom makes a voyage to M in either week 2 or week 3.
No. World 2 gets rid of that.
World 1 gets rid of that as well. So it's out. Oh, no. Yeah.
Well, World 2 explicitly gets rid of it because it's got GJ
it,
in 2 and 3. Yeah.
Yep. C. Freedom makes at most 2 voyages to G. So have we ever seen 3 Gs? Could we have 3 Gs? I feel like we did have 3Gs once, or we could have at least.
It's likely to be acceptable because G is a necessary condition for J, and necessary conditions are good.
I'm looking at world 3. I just do MGM, GJ, GT.
Yep, that works.
Yep. So C does not have to be true. D, freedom makes at most 2 voyages to Jamaica. Now that's a slam dunk, because if you have 3, then you have 3 Gs. Now you have 6, plus you have 2 Ms. That's
8. Plus you have a T. That's 9. You're way over. Yeah.
Yep. All right.
So, yeah, here, I mean, I think this is an example of the if questions didn't actually help us to answer number 12 or 17, but it didn't hurt us either. And I don't think that doing 12 and 17 first would have helped us answer the if questions.
No. Here's the thing, is these questions were easy to answer in part because we had worlds. If you hadn't done worlds, then if questions can kind of save you on these kinds of questions. Like the if questions may have actually been really helpful for some of these.
Right. Yeah, we would have had to do a lot more work if we hadn't done it all in advance with the worlds. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Cool.
Dude, that was fun.
Yeah.
Oh, here's one thing, by the way. If you when you do create diagrams for your if questions or for whatever, if they don't work out, if you create a diagram that doesn't work out, cross it out so you don't ever look back to it.
That's a good point. Yes, something that doesn't work, you're just going to kill it. Don't erase it. Erasing takes up time. It's messy. You can like rip your page. All kinds of bad shit can happen from erasing. Just cross it out. Just cross it out. Generally speaking, you should not really be running out of eraser on your pencils. You should use that eraser very sparingly.
Yeah, it's only to tweak rules in the games where it's like, oh, well, now this is never going to happen, so I'm just going to get rid of this so it's not in my diagram or something, or you're merging rules together and you need to erase to merge them cleanly. That's it.
I see people erasing on their bubble sheet all the time.
Oh.
It's like, hey, pick your answer, then put it on the bubble sheet.
And be done.
I'm not bubbling in C and then going, oh, wait, no, it's D. Erase.
Wait, maybe it's C.
The only time you should be erasing on your bubble sheet is after the 5-minute warning has been called. If you bubbled in your guesses at the 5-minute warning, which is a pretty good technique, then you're going to have to erase a little bit to change, to bubble in when you answer your one more question correct. After the 5-minute warning has been called, you're going to have to change that answer 4 out of 5 times. But other than that, I mean, I don't want you using your eraser on the bubble sheet. And yeah, really, you're erasing a lot on the games? What? Think a little more clearly before you start writing.
Yeah.
And it'll save you a lot of stress and eraser mess.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, do we leave it there, do you think?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. This was an episode in which the shit hit the fan. I hope it's not the last episode we ever publish. But
I hope so too.
If we keep one in the can always, that will be the last episode of the Thinking LSAT podcast, unless we just stop doing it.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
That's kind of dark.
Well, it's a dark show. Farewell.
Yeah. Boy. That was an unnumbered episode. Thanks all y'all for listening. It's been really nice knowing you. Goodbye. Don't pay for law school. Goodbye forever. Don't pay for law school.